Okay, here's the follow-up to 1.1a or 1.1b. This should be able to help you with your assignment 1.1b. Be sure to refer to the video if you do need help with anything. Okay. Now, let me just zoom in just a teeny bit here. I like this a little bit more. So, since this is a continuation of what we did in 1.1a, I would encourage you guys to watch that video first if you missed that class. I will be using a lot of the methods that we already talked about to be able to solve these. Okay. And it follows the same steps that is outlined right here, where it says use the distributive property, combine like terms, get all variables on one side, get all the constants on the other, and solve for the variable. So, we're going to start right here on 2. And it might go a little bit quicker. Slow down and pause if you need to. Our very first step, remember, distribute your numbers through. Okay? 2. And it's a multiplication here. There's no sign in between. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times a negative 3 is negative 12x. Okay? Our next step, if you guys can remember, is to combine like terms. There is nothing alike on each side, so we need to get all of our terms onto the other. The first step I want to move, the first thing I want to move is my variable. To do that, I'm going to add this 12x, because it is a minus or a negative 12, to the other side. And when I do that, apologies, okay, we should end up with a 2 plus a 12 here, which is 14x plus 8 equals 20, and the negative 12 plus 12 is 0. So those just cancel out for us right there. Okay? Now from there, we need to get all our numbers on the other side. My first step is going to be the minus that 8 right from there. Okay? And when I do that, those 8's again are going to cancel for me. I'm left with 14x equals 20 minus 8, which should be 12. Okay? As for our next part, a lot of you guys might not feel comfortable with this, and since it will be a fraction, I will show you a way to do it on your calculator so that it's much easier to do in the future. So the first thing I want you guys to do, divide both sides by 14, since that still is going to get rid of our number. And the 14s are going to cancel. Now, what you guys can see here is that x is equal to 12 over 14. That is just our fraction. Okay, so I'm going to bring in this calculator here to show you guys a little bit of a trick to use. If I can actually get it so it doesn't glare. Not possible, I guess. So all of you guys should have at least learned how to put a fraction into your calculator using the alpha y equals button. If you haven't, okay, I'm just going to move it right over here. That works. If you haven't, this is how you want to do it. Turn your calculator on. Here, I'll clear out that. The first thing you want to do is press alpha y equals. If you can see here, the first thing says n over d. That's numerator and denominator. Okay, I want you to press enter on that. Now, if you guys can kind of see, it looks very similar to how 12 over 14 is laid out. It has a box over a box. So all I want you to do is type in 12 over 14. Oh, 14. Right there. Your arrow over, and now I have a fraction that looks very similar to this one. Okay, press enter. And you can see that my fraction has now been reduced from 12 over 14 to 6 over 7. So instead of writing x equals 12 over 14 or a decimal, since there are no decimals in this problem, we write it down as x equals 6 over 7 as our answer. Okay, always make sure to reduce your fractions. All right. So let's go on to our next problem here. Let's see if I can autofocus this a little bit better. I think it's a little bit off. All right, that looks better. Okay. So, again, first step of doing any of these problems, get rid of your parentheses by distributing. Okay. Now this one looks a little bit different, right? That 3 is on the other side. It still distributes just the same way. Just like that. Okay. Now when I do that, I get 8x minus 5x minus 15, because negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, equals 3 times 7. Now that's 21x minus 3. Okay? down just 2. Okay. Now from there, remember, combine your like terms on both sides of your equation. You can see I have an 8 and a 5 that could be combined into one term. If I think about it, what is 8 minus 5? That's just 3x. Well, the 8x minus 5x. That's where I'm getting that. My next step is to get all of my variables on the same side. Variables being your letters. To do that, I want to move my variables left. That's always the easiest step. So I'm going to minus 21 from both sides, or minus 21x, I should say. And when I do that, my 21 and my 21 should cancel. Okay. And I'm left with 3x minus 21x. Now, if you need to, use your calculator, but this is a negative 18x. Okay, minus 15 equals, those cancel, right? And we have to drop our 3. From there, we want to get all of our numbers over to the other side. So to move a minus, you want to add it to the other side. So nothing happened to my negative 18x, so we're just going to drop it. And we want to look, because those cancel, negative 3 plus 15, that's just going to be 12. Okay? Again, if you need to, use your calculator. Our very next step, again, divide by a negative 18. We want to get rid of those numbers that are next to our letters so we can get it all alone. Those cancel. Now, once again, can you see? This is a fraction. Okay, we need to make it into a reduced fraction, and we need to check and see whether it is even possible. So if I'm looking here, that fraction that I'm looking at is 12 over negative 18. Okay, once again, all you need to do is press alpha y equals. It pulls up this little list here for me. That very first one where it says numerator denominator. Grab that, press 12, and then go to negative 18 on the bottom. Go over, press enter, and look, my fraction's been reduced down to a negative 2/3. So instead of x equals a decimal, it's x equals negative 2 over 3. Just like that. Makes it way simpler. Okay? Alright. Let's move on to our next problem. 9 and 10. Okay? On 9, we're looking at, again, getting rid of those parentheses very first. So we're going to distribute. Make sure you draw your lines. Again, it's very helpful to remember that you have to multiply. Negative 5 times 2, that's a negative 10x. Negative 5 times 3, that's minus 15. 3 times 11, 33. 3 times a negative 4, that's a negative 12x. Minus 58. Okay? Now remember, we want to combine the things that are alike. Notice, 33 and 58 have something alike. They both have no x's on them. Okay? So the first thing you want to do is get 33 and 58 into a single term. So I don't know, possibly don't know, or want to make sure, what 33 minus 58 is. So I'm going to bring in the calculator here. Okay, I'm going to type in 33 minus 58, just like it says, 33 minus 58, or 33 plus a negative 58 if you want to think about it like that. And we have a minus 25. So I'm going to rewrite my equation as, I'll move this over here. I'm going to rewrite my equation as negative 10x minus 15 equals negative 12x minus 25. Okay, and that 33 is coming from there, those two. Okay, now the next step I want to take is get all of my letters on the same side. The x is over here and the x is over here. I want to get them over on the same side. So the next thing I'm going to do, add the 12x to this side, add the 12x to this side. Okay, those 12x's are going to cancel for us. That's the entire idea. Now negative 10 plus 12, that's just going to be a 2x minus 15 equals a minus 25, because that's the only thing that's left over after those cancel. Next, we need all our numbers on the other side. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this minus 15. Add the 15 over. Those cancel. I'm left with 2x equals negative 25 plus 15, which is minus 10. Okay? Once again, 2 times x. That is multiplication. If we're trying to undo multiplication, we always have to do division. Okay? Those 2's cancel. X equals negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And there's your answer. Okay? So, let's move on to our next problem. Okay? Unfortunately, my little sign has gotten in the way up here, but I'm still trying to do the same thing. We're going to do 5 times 6 and 5 times negative x, 4 times 1 and 4 times a negative 2x. Okay. It's going to be a negative 3x plus 30 minus 5x. That minus is coming right from there. Equals 4 minus 4 times a negative 2, which is negative 8x. Okay. And there, remember, you're combining common things. Negative 3 and negative 5 are common. Okay. They have an x in common. So if I think about it, negative 3 plus a negative 5, or minus 5, is going to be negative 8x. Plus 30 equals 4 minus 8x. Okay, our next step, remember, I have an x over here and an x over here. I want them to get all together. So the next step I'm going to do is add my 8x to this side. Now maybe some of you guys have already seen it, but again, the idea is those cancel, and negative 8 plus 8 is just going to be 0. Okay, I don't even need to put anything there for that reason. But nothing happened to my 30, so I'm just going to drop that 30 down. Nothing happened to my 4, so I'm going to drop that as well. Now hold on a second. If you guys can remember from the last video, I might just show it a second. This is, again, a special case. Okay, very similar to number 4 on our last problem. We had a number, 22 equals 0, and that was also a special case, and we ended up with the answer of an NS, or no solution. The same thing is going to happen right over here on number 10. 30 is not the same number as 4, and for that reason, our answer is going to be NS. Just like that, okay? 30 is not the same as 4, NS. So, let's go over here and do this next problem on number 11. Okay? If I look at number 11, remember, first thing we got to do, get rid of those parentheses, okay? So, 2w plus 2 times w, which is just 2w as well, plus 2 times 1, which is just 2, equals 98. If you guys can remember, we want to combine the things that are common. W and W have these two things have the same thing in common, right? So all I want to do, add them together. 2 plus 2 is 4W. Plus 2 equals 98. And then we're just solving a normal equation, right? Then I subtract the 2 from both sides. 2 minus 2 cancels. 4W equals 96. Okay? Now, we might not be able to do this in our heads. That's okay. But if you need to use a calculator, remember, it's just division. All I have to do is divide the 4 off from both sides. Those cancel. Go in my calculator, type in alpha y equals, alpha y equals, numerator denominator, 96 over 4. Press enter, and look, it's a whole number. So even fractions are actually just things that get reduced down to whole numbers. Okay? So we end up with W equals 24 as an answer, right there. Okay? All right. Our next step, our next problem now is going to be this one right here. 70 equals TW, or 2W. That looks better. The calculator kind of makes it a little bit fuzzy. 70 equals 2W plus 2 times 3W and 2 times a negative 1, right? So we just rewrite the rest of the equation and we take care of those parentheses. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times a minus 1 is minus 2. Combine these two into a common term. 70 equals 2 plus 6 is 8 minus 2. Now we're just solving a normal equation again. Add your 2's. Those go for me. 70 plus 2 is 72 equals 8W. Okay? Over here, remember, it's just division. Just one more time. I might bring out back the calculator just so we can see if this works again. Go alpha, y equals, numerator, denominator, 72, and 8. Press enter, and I get a 9. Okay? So from there, all I know is that this is going to be 9, and this is W. Now, you guys might have a tendency to think this is the end of the problem, but no, we don't want to have our variable or our letter on the right side. We want to have it on the left side. So all I have to do is change that by switching it over so that W instead is equal to 9. Okay? And that's it. Now, a couple things that we need to go over before we move on, okay, is where do I start? A lot of this is going to be you guys are going to be able to use on your test for this unit, or your quizzes as well. Okay? So you can see, steps for solving equations. The first thing we want to do is get rid of a parenthesis on both sides. So if we look at the very first example, negative 5x minus 4 times x, which is minus 4x, and minus 4 times 3 is minus 12. Here we get minus 7 times 2x, which is a negative 14, and minus 7 times 5, which is 35, minus 35, plus 8. Step 2, combine any terms that are common on each side, any like terms, I should say. So here we have the negative 5x and the minus 4x. Those can turn into a minus 9x. Then we're looking at a minus 12 equals, well, then we have our minus 14x minus 35 plus 8. The next thing we want to do is combine all the same terms on the other side of the equation. So minus 35 and 8 can definitely combine down with that minus 27. Okay. From there, we want to make sure we're getting all of our variables on the other side of the equation. You're going to add that 14x to the other side. Minus 9 plus 14 is 5. 5x minus 12 equals minus 27. And then 5x minus 12 equals negative 27. You're adding that 12 over because you want to get all of your numbers. Move the constant term over to the other side, or the right side is how they want you to think about it. Okay, variable terms go left, or your letters. Constant terms, or your numbers, go right. Okay, so add or subtract that 12. Add the 12 there. Negative 27 plus 12 is minus 15. Then our last step is going to be 5x divided by 5 and negative 15 divided by 5 to get x equals a negative 3. Okay? So, here's a couple of special cases for us to look at as well. If it looks something like this, so you guys can kind of see, there is division going on here. 5x plus 3 over 6 equals 3. With more than one term in the numerator, do step A. With more than one term in the numerator, do step A first before you go through the regular steps as listed above. Get rid of the number in the denominator by multiplying the other side of the equation by the denominator number. So what is our denominator number? Well, that's just 6. Okay, 6 is going to be our denominator. Okay. And our numerator is going to be 5x plus 3 as an entire thing. So if we want to get rid of the number in the denominator, we multiply by that number. So all we're going to do is multiply both sides by 6, and those 6 cancel for me. Okay? And then we end up with 3 times 6 over here, and we end up with an 18. Now you can kind of see, look, it's just a basic equation that we've seen 100 times so far. Okay? So, what if a fraction is next to a variable? So here you guys can see there's a 2/3 x equals 5. What you need to know is to isolate the variable when a fraction is by a variable is to get rid of the fraction. And you get rid of the fraction by flipping it over and multiplying it to the other side of the equation. Okay? So how I like to think about it is I have a 2/3 here, and if I flip it, that should just end up being 3/2. Okay? And you can see from there that this 3/2 is being multiplied by the other side. So to cancel out that 2/3, those cancel, and we're left with x equals 5 times 3, which is 15/2. Okay? The 5 just multiplies by that 3, and nothing happens to your 2. And that's your answer. Okay? I hope this video was helpful. Ask your teacher if you need any more help.